Johnny Carson hosted The Tonight Show for 3 legendary decades. Almost every episode was about laughs and keeping America company before bed. But some nights broke through that professional distance and became something else entirely. Moments where comedy vanished and tears from guests' faces took over. Times when Carson was so overwhelmed with emotion he began crying live on air. Decades later, people still remember exactly where they were when they watched these incidents happen. These are the 7 most emotional moments in Johnny Carson history. Jimmy Stewart's poem makes Carson cry. Stewart came on The Tonight Show late in his career and settled into the guest chair. He told Carson he wanted to read a poem about his dog, Bo. The audience chuckled because that's what you do when Jimmy Stewart says he's going to read dog poetry. It started light with funny lines about a dog that never behaved and always made a mess.
He never came to me when I would call unless I had a tennis ball, or he felt like it.
But halfway through, something shifted. Stewart's voice got quieter. The poem turned from comedy into memory. The quiet nights with the dog. The small daily routines that become your whole life with a pet until they're suddenly gone.
He'd wake up at night and he would have this fear of the dark, of life, of lots of things. And he'd be glad to have me near. And now he's dead. And there are nights when I think I feel him climb upon her bed and lie between us. And there are nights I feel that stare, and I reach out my hand to stroke his hair, and he's not there. Oh, how I wish that wasn't so. I'll always love a dog named Bo.
Then Carson started crying. Full open crying he couldn't hide even though millions were watching. Stewart finished the poem, barely holding it together. It became one of the most replayed moments in Tonight Show history, with most fans shedding a tear whenever they rewatch it. Bette Midler makes Johnny bawl. This was May 1992, and everyone knew what was happening. Carson's final show after 30 years. Midler was his final guest and understood the weight of that position. She had to make this perfect. She started with heartfelt jokes trying to keep things light, but you could feel the tension building, knowing this was all going to end soon. She brought up songs Carson loved and suddenly moved to the center of the stage and delivered One for My Baby like a goodbye letter set to music. She sang it straight to Johnny with no performance energy. Just one person saying goodbye to another in front of millions.
Thank you, Brett. Oh, what a special night.
Carson's composure broke completely soon after. He turned away trying to hide it, but you could see his shoulders shaking. The camera caught both of them in the same frame, him at the desk fighting tears and her singing her heart out. It ended with this prolonged standing ovation that felt less like applause and more like gratitude for 30 years. Dolly Parton's song for Carson. Dolly Parton was already a massive star when she appeared on The Tonight Show in 1979, but she closed this appearance by introducing a song she'd written specifically for Johnny, not for an album or tour, just for this moment. She pulled out an acoustic guitar right there at the desk, just Dolly with a guitar about to sing something she'd written for Johnny personally. The song's punchline was also its compliment. She sang that she never really made it till the Johnny Carson show, using that refrain as this playful badge of legitimacy that hit with real emotional weight.
You want me to hold that for you?
No, I'm gonna kick it a little. Now, it's not supposed to be too serious, so. Now everybody knows my name, no matter where I go. But I never really made it till the Johnny Carson show. In my bell-bottom jumpsuits with my rhinestones all aglow, I became an overnight success from the Johnny Carson show.
Johnny sat there watching her completely mesmerized, unable to hold back his glowing smile. You could see him almost getting choked up. That's because Carson understood that most guests used his show to promote something, whether it was a movie or a new show. That was the usual transaction. But Dolly wasn't there to sell anything. She was there for Carson. The emotional hit comes from how sincere it is. A genuine superstar at the peak of her fame publicly crediting Carson for helping make her who she was in a song she wrote just for him. Richard Pryor's return after the fire. On June 9, 1980, Richard Pryor set himself on fire during a substance-induced episode. The story was everywhere, and everyone knew the details. His return to The Tonight Show on May 20, 1981 carried unavoidable weight. The audience's applause read like relief as much as admiration.
Welcome back to the world, my friend.
Very much. Thank you.
They all mean it. You know, I don't know where to start.
When I got to the hospital, I damn near ran to the hospital.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know that, seriously, I have Olympic records coming.
You got
I was running so fast, Johnny, I ended up running with myself. I was actually running beside myself, talking about pace. Because I was trying to get help, and I was in shock, and the doctor grabbed me and said, "Do you know who I am?" "No, I'm Dr. Grossman. I'm the best. Don't worry." And steam was coming off my body, you know. That's it.
Carson approached the topic very carefully and respectfully. You could see him being hesitant about whether to bring it up at all, but Pryor wouldn't let him avoid it. He used dark humor to keep control of the room and made jokes about being on fire like it was just another crazy story. But when Carson asked about lingering effects, the conversation briefly turned quiet and genuinely human. The comedy acts like a thin shield over something traumatic. You could see Pryor trying to move forward while the audience felt how raw the memory still was in their brains. The power of the moment is in that contrast. Richard was being hilarious and vulnerable at the same time, while also using comedy as armor while everyone watching understood exactly what he was doing. Johnny's final appearance. On May 22, 1992, Carson's last Tonight Show episode ever aired. It contained celebrity flashbacks of the most funny and iconic moments, as well as Johnny, Ed McMahon, and Doc Severinsen with a retrospective of 30 years. He sat on a stool center stage and told viewers the show would be quieter tonight. As the hour moved through memories, he became visibly moved. Less host closing a broadcast and more man closing a major life chapter. He talked about what the show meant to him and how much he appreciated every single guest and audience member who attended, how it had been an honor to come into people's homes every night for 30 years. His farewell was direct and simple. No big speech about his legacy, just thank you and goodbye forever. That restraint is what makes it sting emotionally. He didn't dramatize it, which made the emotion feel completely genuine. You were just watching someone say goodbye to something that had been their entire professional life, trying to do it with dignity while his voice kept breaking. It's hard to watch even if you never saw a single episode, because you understand what it means to lose something that defining. David Letterman's tribute after Carson's death. Carson died in January 2005 after years of quiet retirement away from cameras and public life. Letterman's first late show broadcast, after that news broke, devoted the entire hour to honoring the man who'd basically invented the format they were all using. The air felt different right away, like the room had been told to sit down and listen instead of laugh on command. There was still a studio audience, and still bright lights, and still the familiar set, but the energy was muted in a way you almost never feel on a comedy show. It was grief dressed up as television, and everybody knew it. The writers knew it, the band knew it, the crew knew it, the audience knew it. Letterman knew it most of all because he wasn't just talking about a legend. He was talking about the person whose approval had once felt like the only approval that mattered. The signature move came during the monologue when Letterman started delivering jokes and then paused to reveal where they'd come from. Carson had quietly been sending him jokes from retirement, just writing material and mailing it to Letterman to help with his show. Nobody in the audience knew about it. Carson never made it public or took credit or asked for acknowledgement, just kept doing what he'd always done behind the scenes, writing jokes, helping other comedians, shaping late-night comedy even when he was completely out of the spotlight and could have just walked away forever. And the way Letterman told it made it even more affecting because it wasn't presented like a cute story or a fun secret. It was presented like a discovery, like an unexpected kindness that suddenly reframed who Carson was when nobody was watching. Not the guy behind the desk soaking up applause. The guy alone at home is still doing the work, still thinking about timing and phrasing and punchlines, still caring enough to put it in an envelope and send it off for someone else to use. It was mentorship without a speech, support without a spotlight, or a quiet hand on the shoulder from the person who never needed to prove anything again. Letterman revealed the source after delivering several of them, and it played like a final gift from beyond. Carson is still writing, still funny, still contributing, still caring about the format he'd built even years after leaving it. You could feel the room processing it in real time, like like people were realizing they were hearing Carson one more time in the only language he ever truly trusted: jokes. The audience reaction was immediate and emotional. You could hear people getting choked up in the seats. The laughter that did happen was softer, almost careful, like nobody wanted to disrespect the moment by laughing too loud. But they also couldn't help it because the material was real and it worked. That combination is what hit hardest. It wasn't just sadness. It was gratitude mixed with disbelief that Carson had been there all along, quietly, privately, still doing what he did best, still making sure the machine kept running even after he stepped away from it. The show brought in Peter LaSalle, who'd been Carson's longtime producer, to talk about working with Johnny for all those years, grounding the tribute in first-hand history and actual memories rather than just general praise and clip packages. LaSalle told stories about Carson's work ethic and perfectionism and kindness that gave weight to what everyone already knew about him. He made it feel less like a myth and more like a real person you could picture, someone who cared about the smallest details because he respected the audience and respected the craft. Stories about how seriously Carson took preparation even when he made it look effortless. Stories about how he protected the rhythm of the show, how he knew when to push and when to pull back, how he could be demanding without being cruel, how he could be private without being cold. And as LaSalle talked, it felt like the room kept drifting back to that same idea. That Carson's legacy wasn't just the jokes and the desk and the famous moments. It was the way he treated the job like it mattered, the way he treated comedy like something worth doing right, and the way he quietly helped other people do it too. It ended musically with Doc Severinsen and several members of the former Tonight Show band performing Here's That Rainy Day, the exact same song Bette Midler had sung on Carson's final episode over a decade earlier, creating this circle back to that goodbye, turning the whole hour into a quiet elegy for someone who defined an entire generation of television and influenced everyone who came after him. The music did what words could not. It filled the space where jokes and applause normally live and replaced it with something slower and heavier, a goodbye that did not need a speech, just a familiar melody and a room sitting still, feeling the absence, feeling the debt, and realizing that for one night the entire format paused to honor the person who made it possible. Judy Garland's final appearance. Judy Garland walked through that curtain onto Carson's stage in 1968, and the studio erupted in a way that felt different from the usual Tonight Show applause. It was way louder and emotional, which is because everyone in that room understood who she was and what she represented. Not just a performer or a movie star, a living legend, an icon from Hollywood's golden age who'd been performing since she was a child. Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, now decades older, but still carrying all that history with her. She performed It's All For You and Till After the Holidays, and it landed less like a typical talk show musical guest doing a quick number and more like a headline act being given space and time to simply exist and sing without any gimmicks or production. Carson introduced her with unusual reverence and care, the kind of tone you use when you know you're in the presence of genuine greatness, and you don't want to diminish it with typical talk show banter. He let her perform and let the moment be about her. And you can feel how the room is listening in a different way, not in that casual late-night way where people sip drinks and wait for the next joke. This is focused, almost protective, like the audience is trying to hold the moment steady so nothing breaks it. The band gives her a soft foundation and then backs off just enough so her voice can fill the space. And her voice does fill it, not like a polished studio recording, like a real person standing a few feet from the desk, breathing, holding the mic, and pushing feeling through every line. There is strength in it. There is wear in it. There is that unmistakable Garland thing where even a simple phrase sounds like it has a whole life behind it. Carson sits there and you can tell he is choosing his timing carefully. He does not crowd her. He does not rush her into chatter. He watches her the way fans watched her for years, with that slight lean forward like he does not want to miss a second. He is not performing the host role as much as he is making sure the stage stays hers. When the applause swells after a line, he lets it happen. When it quiets, he lets the quiet settle. It is respect, but it is also instinct. The instinct that says this is bigger than the show's usual rhythm. For modern viewers, the moment carries extra weight and sadness because it's often cited as her last surviving full television appearance. She died less than a year later in June 1969. So when you watch it now, you're seeing something that feels like a goodbye, even though nobody knew it at the time. The emotional charge comes from that contrast between what the audience saw then and what we know now. A huge roaring reception for someone the studio audience clearly loved and treasured, paired with this very intimate close-in performance where she's just singing without any distance or performance armor. You can see it in her face too, the way she holds her expression between lines, the way she seems to gather herself for the next phrase. There is a vulnerability that never feels rehearsed. It feels like she is standing standing there with the full weight of being Judy Garland and still trying to be present in the moment instead of hiding behind the legend. That is why it hits so hard, because the legend is right there, but the person is right there too. And the person is what audiences always connected to, the sense that she is giving you something honest, even when it costs her something to give it. You can feel the affection in the room, the gratitude that she's there at all, given everything she'd been through in her life and career. And underneath it, this sadness that everyone kind of knew, even in 1968, that this might be one of the last times they'd get to see Judy Garland perform, that they were watching something precious and fleeting. People clap like they are trying to tell her thank you without saying the words. They clap like they are trying to send strength to her from their seats. And when she finishes, it is not just applause. It is acknowledgement. It is relief. It is love. And they were right, because what survives on that stage is not just a segment from a talk show. It is a snapshot of a legend in real time, not frozen in a movie, not protected by editing, just a woman with a microphone, a room full of people who adore her, and a host who knows when to step back and let history happen. That is why it still feels electric, because you are watching a moment that cannot be recreated. A moment that was only possible because Judy Garland walked out, the room understood what it meant, and for a few minutes everyone agreed to treat it like something sacred. Which of these emotional moments hit you the hardest when you watched it? Did seeing Carson cry on television change how you saw him as a host and as a person? Let us know about these facts you learned and what you think in the comments below. And if you want more deep dives into The Tonight Show's most unforgettable moments and the stories behind them, make sure you hit the subscribe button to support the channel and keep these videos coming.